Welcome back to the Normal Sports Show. My name's Kyle Porter. That's Hayden Martin. We've got a fun guest today. Beau Welling is joining us to talk about his career, his life in golf, and a lot of other kind of random, seemingly disconnected things that somehow have like a really cool thread. So excited to talk to him. And yeah, Hayden, how we doing?
Doing good, man. We're back from way too much golf. 5 rounds of golf in 3 days could not handle it. Started looking like Scotty. I mean, my hands had blisters all over them, which hurt. By the way,
did you see what he said?
Well, about what?
About hand, foot, and mouth?
Like that he had it?
Well, the way he phrased it, he said, "I got the hand, foot, and mouth." He was from like the 1700s.
Okay, have you had this?
I have not. My kids have. Yes. At least a couple of them.
Yeah, I got it as an adult, and I am 100% behind Scotty. Like, I cannot believe he played golf. It was like one of the worst 2 days of my adult life when I got it. Well, first of all, we took our kid to the doctor, kids at the time, and I was like, "Hey, do we need to be worried about this?" She's like, "No, adults don't get this." I was like, "Oh, cool. Like, we're fine."
Except for you.
2 days later, I start breaking out. I couldn't put my socks on. I couldn't wear shoes. Like, couldn't go to work. My boss was like, "Get this medieval disease out of here."
Dude,
like,
every time you hear it, you're like, this is like, wasn't this eradicated at the same time as polio? Like, I don't understand how this is still around.
I don't know, but it was awful. So
I got the hand foot. Scotty, the things that he's been upended by: a cop in Louisville, a wine glass making ravioli, and the hand, foot, and mouth disease. Like, he might be not even injury prone, like insane event prone.
Yeah. I mean, I'm worried as he continues to have kids, just the type of injuries he's going to find himself in. Not golf related, but golf affecting. Because the type of stuff that your kids end up doing to you to get you injured is like, how did this happen?
You get to my age and you roll out of bed the wrong way and you're like, one of my friends calls it, what does he call it? He calls it like SRIs.
Which is what?
Sleep-related injuries.
Well, I'm at the point where I have KRIs. It's a lot of kid-related injuries, it feels like. So.
For sure. Okay, real quick before we get into the Beau Welling thing, PGA TOUR announced on, Tuesday? So we're taping this on Wednesday. Their new postseason system, essentially. And the way that I understand it is 90 guys in the first week of the postseason. I don't know that there was like an overarching name for it, but basically in the first week of the postseason. And those guys are playing for the season-long Tour Championship thing again. There's not, it's still a little ambiguous, but the way that I understand it, Hayden, is you can win that event, but still not win the season-long race. Like, there's a lot of, and this is harkening back to what it was previously, where like we saw Tiger win the Tour Championship, but I think Justin Rose won the FedEx Cup, right? Where you could have two separate winners of this season-ending thing. I think there's been a lot of emphasis by the tour on, hey, the best player of the season is whoever accumulates the most points over the year. I think the players want that, and the players have said this. Keith Mitchell said this. I saw an article on ESPN.com. Like, hey, this is what we believe is the best player. It's whoever accumulates the most points. Obviously, Brian Roloff wants that. The tour wants it. So that's one part of it. And then after that, they'll whittle down the final 32 in the points race to play 2 weeks of match play. So it's the first week is 8 4-person groups, and they're all playing each other. And then from there, we'll get a final 16. So two players from each group, kind of World Cup style, get into the final 16, and then it's one-on-one single elimination, except it's not, because guys that lose will continue to play for seeding. They have to do it that way because you can't get to the end and only have one match going on. That's horrific for TV. Do you have any takeaways from any of this? Like, what's your thoughts on it?
I think going back to the 90-person field that is kind of played, and then awarding a season-long champion, I think is a good thing. I agree. Like like you said, the players want that. I think the fans want that too. I think golf is so unique to other sports because we don't do that in other sports, right? Like we don't say like, Dodgers had the best record in baseball. Like, let's give them an award. No, it's like, let's see if they can not choke in the playoffs. So I do it's different from other like team sports. But I think it's good because I think golf is a lot different from those sports. It's kind of like what we were talking about last week. Like we don't necessarily value longevity or consistency. Maybe like we should in golf. So I like that they're doing that. And then I love that they're trying something new.
Yes.
I hope that this works. I hope that it will be good. I hope that it will be compelling. I think there's going to be good years and bad years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like kind of like the current tour championship, right? Like there are years that, I think about Victor Hovland or like Rory going on I think his second one, like when he like holed out on like, I don't remember what hole it was, but like, I don't know, Rory put a run together to win, ultimately win.
Yeah.
And I just think they're, with match play, I think we saw this with Austin, like there will be good years and bad years. But that doesn't necessarily mean that like it's wrong if it's a bad year. So for me, it's like, I like the process that they're going through. They're listening to fans. We're all idiots. So sure, this might not go well. But I'm excited to see it play out. I have questions about playing out all the seeds and how that might look. Yeah, I don't know. It is that part I think is still needs to be ironed out, but they have 2-ish year and a half, however long, to figure that out.
Yeah, I have questions too. I'm with you. I think match play, like we've been clamoring for it, and I think the difference. You look at the WGC match play, and people are like, "Well, that kind of worked, but not really." I do think the difference is now you only have the top 32. That's big to me.
Yeah.
Like that's a big difference from you get the 55 seed advance to the semifinals, and it's like I don't like these aren't good matchups. I think with the 32, you're gonna get better matchups, and so you get Rory and Hovland or Scotty and Colin Morikawa or whatever that are like, oh, that's compelling. Like I'm into that. Somebody brought this up in our Slack. Venue matters, like where they go. There's a lot of talk about the cool, awesome, amazing places they're going to go to. I'll believe it when I see it, right? And so if I mean, like, this is pie in the sky, would never happen. But if you're going to abandon and it's like you're taking the 32 best players in the world there, like, sign me the heck up. Like, I'll all day. If you're going to Quail Hollow and it's hot in late August and guys are just sweating their faces off and it's like, I think I'm good. I think I've seen that in like a different form before. So I think that matters a ton, like how that sort of plays out. I'm curious about, and like, I don't care a ton, but I am curious about how's the money all being distributed? Like how much is going to match play? How much is going to the season long race? How much is going to the new last tournament of the year tour champion? Or I don't know what we're calling it. What's happening to FedEx? Are they just completely out of golf? Like there's still things that I have questions about, but I am very excited about it. I think it's I think it's great. I think it's super interesting.
Did they mention too, like the match plays over 2 weeks? Did you say that?
Yes. Yeah.
And it's potentially 2 separate courses, right?
But yes.
I think that's kind of interesting too, is because like maybe this doesn't play out or it isn't as big of an impact, but like you think of like 2 different course fits, right? Like let's say in the group play of match play, you have a guy who just absolutely dominates. Like it's just like a course that he likes and plays well on. And then, the next week they go to a new course that's like awful. I don't know. I think that's interesting. Usually when you see match play, I can't think of a place where they played matches on 2 separate courses. I think that part's interesting, but I think it would be fine. It might get it might be long for one course to host 2 weeks of PGA Tour event, so I don't know. I keep going back to like, this sounds great. I'm excited for it, but like we're 2 years away. Like it's hard to like, I don't know. We'll see how the one thing I do like too though is like Roll Up like giving us these dates of like, here's when we'll announce this. He was like, I think it's like they've got 12 or I think 7 of the championship series events. And then you got the players in the majors. But then he's like, on February 22nd or whatever the date was, he's like, we'll announce the rest of the championship series. Then we'll announce more about the match play at the players championship. It's like, I don't know. He's just, I continue to be impressed by him, his willingness to try new things, but also like his ability to communicate and explain and be seemingly transparent. Just again, makes me excited for what's ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So they just dropped the 2027 PGA Tour schedule. We don't need to get into it, but I was looking through it.
Do you see they spelled the PGA Championship wrong? Someone noted that in the Slack space.
Yeah. Maybe they're getting back at the PGA for not capitalizing PGA Tour at all times. And who can say? I agree with you. I think somebody was saying that, maybe Tron was saying this, but like Roll Up is, and I've said this all along, like I'm the captain now, and it's like playing out like that, which is awesome. Like he clearly is like, has a plan and is executing it. And I think there's a ceiling on like, how interesting can you make all this? I think you can't be the NFL. You can't be the Masters. So like, what is that ceiling and how close can you get to it? And I'm pumped that they're like that progressing forward. It's a very good thing. Okay, we need to get to Beau. First, we need to thank Seed Golf for sponsoring today's show. You can go to seedgolf.co. Hey, they have a ball fitting quiz, and instead of a read today, I'm just going to take the quiz, and you're going to help me. I believe you took it recently. It's not super complicated, but I might need, just like whenever I fill out those personality tests, sometimes I have to have my wife next to me because she's like, this is who you think you are, but that's not like how you actually are. So you're going to help me with this. How fast is your driver swing? So this is under 85 miles an hour, 85 to 105, over 105, or I'm not sure. I think it's over 105.
You're over 105.
Okay, over 105. So we're going to end up here with what kind of ball should I be using from Seed Golf? And again, seedgolf.co. You can take this little quiz. What matters most in your game? More distance off the tee, stopping power on greens, consistent all-around play, or best value for money?
I'm very curious how you answer this.
Well, is it what matters, what like currently most, or like aspirationally what I want to matter?
Well, that's exactly what I wanted to hear what you would say.
Because currently it's distance off the tee. Aspirationally, it's stopping power on greens.
Yeah. I would say at this point for you, it's probably more distance off the tee.
Okay,
like
so just lean into
a good ball isn't going to necessarily help your chipping, right? Like your chipping's got to be solid to be able to.
We don't need to do this right now. What feel do you prefer? Super soft. So this is a muted, buttery response. I love that. Soft, medium/balanced, or firm with strong feedback. This is loud, crisp, tour style response. You throw tour in there, and that's what I'm going with. So firm with strong feedback.
You're ridiculous.
What's your handicap? That's easy. Between 10 and 20. Although it says break 90 most rounds, so it's not been the case recently. Where do you usually play? Links, coastal and windy, parkland, tree line, mix of both, resort, stadium. So I'd say parkland, tree line, yeah?
Yep.
What ball do you play now? Well, I play a seed ball, of course. I guess it wants you to put in, like, what did you put for this?
Some comparable. I just put no preference because I just kind of play whatever.
Okay, so see my match. So it's crunching the numbers again. Seedgolf.co. It spit out the Pro Tour, SDO2 Pro Tour, a 4-piece tour ball built to challenge the Pro V1X, long off the tee, dialed into greens with the firmer feel, faster swings demand.
I took the quiz alongside you here. I got the Pro 1. I got the SDO 1. Tour level spin. Feel at half the Pro V1 price. If short game control matters most, this is your ball.
Yeah,
so,
we got the balls that we should have gotten.
Totally.
Like if our wives were to take this, if they knew they knew about
I don't think this is the test for them.
If they knew enough about our games. Actually, my wife could take this test, and this is what I would end up. Because I always come home and she's like, let me guess, you killed the ball, but you didn't score because you can't chip. And I'm like, yeah, all the time, every time. She's like, well, that's kind of part of the game. It's kind of part of the deal. I'm like, yeah, I get it. Like, I don't need you reinforcing that for me.
I feel like if Jen got into golf, she'd be really good.
She played high school golf, but it was more of a we don't have enough humans situation than a she's good at it. She can swing it a little. She's not bad.
I can see it.
Yeah. So anyway, thanks to Sea Golf for sponsoring. Go take their quiz, figure out which ball fits your game best, and let's hear from Beau. Okay, we've got Beau Welling, CEO of Beau Welling Design, which has designed courses such as Fields Ranch, Blue Jack National, and Pelican Golf Club. He's a golf course designer, curling enthusiast, I think is putting it lightly, and man of many interests. Beau, how's your week going?
Oh, it's going great. I was joking with you guys. I'm living the dream, but it really is. I mean, as a young person growing up in golf and sport, to be able to do what all I'm doing is really amazing. And this week has been a good one, and will continue to be. So I'm headed to Europe here tonight, and looking forward to that.
Who was your biggest influence in golf, like specifically as it relates to golf when you were growing up?
Yeah, probably my dad. So my dad was a golfer, and he cut off golf clubs for me at age 2. So there are pictures of me swinging little mini golf clubs, cut off golf clubs at age 2. And it was something that he and I did together, kind of all growing up. Yeah, for sure, it'd be my dad. Yeah.
I've heard you talk about, this is one thing that really struck me as I've kind of followed your career and your work and everything, but I've heard you talk about the importance of gathering places in golf course design, right? Like where people can get together and interact and talk. And I think that when people think of golf course design or golf course architecture, they think bunkers and greens and tee boxes and all this stuff. Why gathering places? Like what is it about gathering places? Where did that come from?
Well, I mean, I think that, I played competitive golf growing up. I was an okay golfer, ultimately played in college, but when I got involved in golf course design, it was really about greens, tees, bunkers, like the test of the game. Like that's what really drew me there. But at some point along the way, the light bulb kind of went off for me. It went off in my head of like, wait a minute, like golf is so much more than greens, tees, and bunkers. It really is this driver of human connection and people. And you're going back to your earlier question with my father, like half the memories of my father were like on the golf course. And I started looking around and realizing that, so many of my close friends were people that, were a part of the junior golf program and that I grew up in Greenville, South Carolina. And then, started looking at newer people I had, had developed relationships with. And like so many of them was like, wait a minute, I met that guy on the golf course. And so it just became very, very palpable, powerful to me of how important, or not important, but how impactful golf can be in terms of people getting together. And so I think that started to inform me and some of my design ideas about let's use golf design as a way to help promote that and do that even more. And so that manifests itself into what, like you're saying, like gathering places. We think that's very important, whether that be before the round of golf, after the round of golf, or during the round of golf. But it also sort of informs like what we decide to do via playing the game of golf as well, because we want to create an experience that everyone can go and enjoy, regardless of skill level, which every golf architect in the world says, but we want them to be able to do it together. So I want to be able to go play with a person that's better than me in golf, and I want to go play with somebody that's not as good as me, poor souls. But let's all be together and have fun. And so I think that the style of how golf works, there needs to be a certain way in order to do that, because otherwise it's like it might not be fun for one level or the other. And I sometimes say, like, I don't want to segregate my friendships by handicap, and I certainly don't want to segregate my family by handicap. So like, why shouldn't golf be something that promotes people being together? And so in terms of those spaces, the actual physical gathering spaces, I think we're doing stuff like you mentioned, Fields Ranch. So we've got the overlook there that you hit 3 different times. And that's by design. Like, we want people to run into other people, like, while they're there, in addition to be able to get something to eat or drink or whatever. But it's also like, in their tables and fire pits and things and such. Let's pause for a minute and sort of have that sort of collision. And so, yeah, I mean, to me, the more I'm involved in this, the more powerful I think that golf is, this driver of people and community. And I think is with the rise of technology and what's all coming, I actually think the species is going to need even more outlets like this to actually go be with humans and do stuff. And so anyway, we're very passionate about that.
Yeah, and you can see it in PGA Frisco. Hayden and I have both been there. We both live 30 or 40 minutes from PGA Frisco. We've been up there with our kids. Played there with our kids, played the par 3, done the putting green. I'm curious, have you seen that idea of gathering places gain momentum within the golf course architecture world since COVID, or do you still feel like it's kind of unique to what you guys are doing?
No, I feel like you hear more and more people talking about it, which is a good thing in my mind. I think that, COVID to me, obviously affected lots of things, but some of those things were like already starting, I think, before COVID. I think COVID helped accelerate many things. We're golf course designers, but we're also planners. And so like some of the stuff and we served as the master planner at PGA Frisco in addition to designing the West course. And, a lot of what we've done there is we've sort of taken concepts from like sort of urban planning and sort of brought that into the golf resort, for lack of a better term. Mm-hmm. So like the promenade that, walkway that exists from the hotel over to the putting green, over to the driving range, like all that's very intentional of like trying to create, activation along that space, people walking. And one of the things that's really nice for me is I remember like an early visit to the Omni PGA Frisco once it was open, of witnessing in real life so these things that we talked about around plans for mess. That you could see them meeting at the bar, and then I happened to go the next day to the range, and there they were. They had one had a tee time on the east, one had a tee time on the west, and all of a sudden they're connected because they met at the bar the night before. And I thought that was really cool. And so then, I go do whatever I'm doing. I get back that night, and lo and behold, there they are hanging out together back at the hotel. And like they had met, and like all this had kind of pushed them together, and this sort of cool thing has sort of happened. And so I just, maybe that's a weirdo kind of way that I look at things, but I just thought that was really, really neat. Here were people that came because they wanted greens, tees, bunkers, the test of the game, the great hospitality of the Omni, but they actually ended up coming and meeting and starting to develop a bit of a connection. And I think that's really, really cool.
That is super cool. I was curious, Beau, you were talking about as you worked more and more in the golf industry, you started to realize that, having these gathering places were good. Was there like a particular place or even a particular culture, country, as you travel kind of all over the world, where you saw this in practice and were like, this needs to be more of what we see in the US? Or was it a specific instance, or was it just kind of a slow build to come to that realization?
I distinctly remember where this first inkling of this idea sort of started in my head. And it was at a place that the FASI organization had done for the Discovery Land Company, a place called Iron Horse in Whitefish, Montana. And Iron Horse was an interesting place in that a lot of the market were people from the Bay Area, but it sort of surprisingly had an early adoption or use from some people from Manhattan, and culturally these groups were very different. So you sort of had Bay Area sort of tech kind of people, and then this group from Manhattan were like more maybe blue collar is not the right way to say it, but they were like trader kind of folks. So like culturally, like really, really different. But I remember seeing them meeting and connecting, and all of a sudden, like they struck me as very disparate personalities. And all of a sudden, I watched them through visits at Iron Horse become friends. And that's where I was like, it really dawned on me. It's like, if it wasn't for this golf course, these people would never meet. And like and they would never have an outlet to meet and develop a connection, given that culturally they were kind of different. And that's where it really, the power of golf like really resonated with me, because it was golf that brought them together. And I mean, this great environment of Montana, but like it was playing the game of golf that truly sort of brought them together. And so that was what I call the light bulb moment. And then from there, I started thinking and observing more and more. And then that's where I started this realization about my father, about my friends, about me. Like at first I was like me observing others. And then I started to realize, wait a minute, this is what your life has been about, is that golf has helped provide this sort of connection to you to many, many disparate type people.
Yeah, that's really well said. And golf in so many ways is the great equalizer, right? And we see this in the handicap system even. Scotty Scheffler's talked about, I can play somebody I'm giving 18, 22 strokes to, and we play a match. And that's awesome. I think about this, honestly, when I go to the Masters and they don't have hospitality. They don't have, like everybody's just walking around. You see Peyton Manning over there, and you see Condoleezza Rice over here. And it's in so many ways. And I love that your design company has taken this on, like such an equalizer of all types of people. And that's what I think is one of the things that I love about it. Beau, you've had so much success in your career and been doing this for a long time. What these days keeps you the most humble?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I think it's all, whether it's playing the game of golf, trying to design golf courses, trying to run World Curling, nothing's easy. And so, everything's a challenge. And I think sort of approach things of like, you can always do better. And so I just think it's sort of how it's in my DNA a little bit, this idea of like, you can always be better. And so you sort of never rest on sort of laurels at all. And, golf itself, like the game, to your point about the great equalizer, it's a game that, you can pick up at a young age, but then, and you can play your entire life, but like no one ever really masters it. Like even the best golfer in the world, a Scotty Scheffler has bad holes and bad tournaments and bad rounds. And so I think it is by nature, it's like a very humbling thing. Like you could always be a better golfer. And I think that's a kind of true sort of life lesson. And, I think we see that. I see that just more and more like in everything that we do. So I think that's what, to me, it's easy to stay humble because like you could always be better.
We got to talk about the curling thing. The organization that I run is called Normal Sport, and we talk about the weird situations that golfers get into that don't happen in any other sport. One of the weirdest things I've ever heard in golf is that one of its lead architects is also the president of the World Curling Federation. How did this come about? Why did this come about? How did you fall in love with this?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm from Greenville, South Carolina. So we put ice in our drinks. We don't really do anything on ice. But curling became a demonstration sport in the Calgary Winter Olympics in 1988, and I was a sports fanatic. And all of a sudden, here's a sport that's in the Olympics, and I'm like, that I've never heard of. And like, how can that even be? And so I went out of my way and learned a little bit about it: rocks, brooms, and ice. And at first, I thought like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Like, how can this be in the Olympics? Like, how is that even possible? But fast forward, 14 years later, it got some coverage at the Salt Lake games. And I found myself watching it and found myself like almost inextricably drawn to it, just like wrapped. And that I'm a curious person. So that then led me to want to understand more about it. And one of my colleagues in golf design was a guy named Andy Banfield, who had been born in Northern Ontario, Canada. And so he had grown up curling. And so he was a key person to sort of start to explain to me the game. And the more I learned about it, the more fascinated I got. And I think it's because it's a very strategic game, which sort of fits my brain. And then it's an ancient Scottish game, just like golf. And to this day, it's very obvious to me that golf and curling come out of the same sort of Scottish ether, if you will. Angles are important in both sports. They both are games of values like integrity, honor. You call your own fouls in both games. They both have weird jargon and terminology, both camaraderie based, and arguably one could say they both are sort of excuses to drink scotch. But so that was the connection. So I think the fact I was a golfer, then finding out this was another Scottish sport, and to me, it would have been a conceptual sort of thinker. Like they're very similar, like in many ways, in a very weird conceptual way, sort of like team putting, in a way. And so that was sort of where the hook started to get set, and then I ended up ultimately showing up at a U.S. national championship in Bemidji, Minnesota, which is 4 hours north of Minneapolis, and I think they were so shocked some redneck from South Carolina would venture in the middle of the winter. They kind of took me in, and from there, this sort of crazy Forrest Gump-esque story starts that leads me through USA curling, ultimately into world curling, and then ultimately got elected to the board of world curling in 2018, and then in 2022, I got elected to be the president, and then we'll find out in 2 weeks' time whether I remain in that position or not. So I have an election. So I'm actually headed to Slovakia tonight for the World Curling Congress, and so we'll see. We have elections the day before Labor Day. So
you presented the medals at the Winter Olympics this year.
I did, yes. I was in Italy for 5 weeks for both the Olympic Winter Games as well as the Paralympic Winter Games, and that was just magical and special. We were in Cortina, in the site of where the opening ceremonies had been in the previous games in Cortina in the 50s, and it was awesome and really, really great, and it's magical. I love the sport. More importantly, I really love the people. It's all the stuff I say about golf and gathering and impact on people. Curling's the same, if not even more. And I think that's sort of, again, my draw to it is it's another sport, another culture, is sort of bringing people together in a nice and rich way, in a real way. And so I think it's very special. I'm prone to say that if the world had more curlers, and I would say the same about golf, if the world had more curlers, more golfers, like I think the world would be a better place. Like there's something fundamental about both games that sort of teach you like how to have values, how to interact with other people, all things I think they're sort of needed in today's sort of crazy, ever-changing world.
How has curling, if at all, but how has it affected the way that you design golf courses? Because you said there's similarities there, the angles, different things like that. Has it changed the way you think about golf course design at all?
I don't know if it's done that. So I don't think it's really done that, but I see. I mean, I guess if it's done anything, it's just further validation of this thing we started talking about of like people together, gathering spaces, whatnot. So a curling club, like if you were to go to a dedicated curling facility in the United, really anywhere in the world, but certainly in the United States and Canada, you have sheet of ice where the game's played, but then appended to that, you would have what would be known as a warm room. So something that's not out on the ice, normally has glass so you can watch, but in essence, it's a bar and a meeting area. And so, part of the culture of the game is that once you're done with a game, you then go to the warm room with your opponent and you sit down at a table and have a drink. Like that's fundamental to the culture of the game. And so this warm room thing is very a key thing. And so it's like these gathering spots on the golf course. And so I think maybe seeing that maybe has further validated like these are good ideas. I think of allowing spaces for people to come together.
But I'm curious, like even just reading some of the other interests and things you've done in your life, you're on the board of the Carolina Ballet Company, studied physics in college, Irish literature. There's just all these like eclectic and just super interesting, almost paths that you go down. Is that just kind of how you feel like you're wired that way? And when you start to get interested in something, you just go down that path to see it to the end? Or how do you explain some of that?
Yeah, I mean, you could just say like I'm a weirdo or schizophrenic or something. But
I'm inspired.
Yeah, but I've always been a learner, like one that's thirsty for knowledge, and I think that's sort of taken me down all these kind of different paths. I'm not on the Carolina Ballet Theater board anymore, but I used to be. Um, and, and like there are reasons why that is. Like it was, a local thing and trying to do something cool in the art space for the community. But then I've got a first cousin that was like the first, one of the first Americans to study at the Bolshoi, and was a very successful ballet dancer. And so, it's all jumbled up in that. And then, I had an important science teacher in high school that sort of led me down the science route and the physics route. And so I remain like this voracious reader and thirsty for knowledge. And so that will always takes me into these sort of kind of crazy paths. But then at the same time, like it all kind of always knits back together. And I think it's one of the reasons maybe why I see the world in maybe a different way. It is through kind of these different paths. And I think that's what's leading again to y'all's original question of like why I think this stuff is so important of getting people together. I think it relates to because I've gone and done all these stuff and and seen things from all kinds of different perspectives and in different ways. But I remain that. So like if I don't get reelected next week or whatever it is, I'll be sad for sure. But at the same time, like I'll figure out something else. Like I'll read, get to read more, get to go take another path, kind of thing. So I think the idea of adventure, the idea of discovery, is sort of in my DNA for sure.
What's the best book you've read this year?
Oh, that's a really good question. The best book. I read all this weird nonfiction stuff. And so right now I'm reading a book about a priest in France that sort of like occupied France during World War II and did a whole bunch of stuff to go help protect people. And he came from a wealthy sort of background. And so this was like he kind of didn't need to do this, but he did. And he's very, thoughtful and very impressive sort of person. So I think that's kind of interesting, inspiring, kind of thing. So I maybe best isn't the right word, but that's like what I'm reading right now. But I'm very interesting. Yeah.
That's awesome. After the 2019 Masters, I went up to Pinehurst for the first time that I had ever been there and played the Cradle. And I remember playing the Cradle. We probably went 2 or 3 loops around it. And I just left thinking, this type of golf should be everywhere. I've got 4 kids. Hayden's got 3. And I think sometimes golf can feel, I mean, you've experienced this probably a ton, like super inaccessible for like parents and their kids. And like, where do I go play? Like, can I join here? Like, is there openings there? And I'm just curious about like, why is there not more emphasis, or maybe there is, maybe it's heading in this direction. Why is there not more emphasis on short courses and kind of like shrinking the game down in terms of like how big the footprint is so that kids and their parents can access it more?
Well, I think there's big emphasis on it now. I mean, in the course of my career, which is now almost 30 years, it used to be when somebody called you 30 years ago and said, I want to, do a new a new golf course. What they meant was 18 holes of golf, and maybe a sliver of a driving range. And then at some point, the call meant 18 holes of golf and a pretty kick-ass driving range. And then at some point, it turns to morph into, I want to do a new golf course. It's golf course, range, awesome short game area. Now that call it's 18 holes of golf, awesome range, awesome short game area, and a short course. And so I think people have seen it, whether it be through the Cradle or like we did one early about the same time as the Cradle at Blue Jack, called the Playgrounds, and many, many others. People have done it. The Hay. I think people see this as it's fun. It is radically more accessible for families, for beginners, for anybody. But it's also like to me, they're fun for good players to be like less serious, not having to count a score. So now all of a sudden that you don't have to segregate your golf experience by handicap. It's like even more. If you look at the data side of golf, if you look at how does a good player outperform a lesser player, it's disproportionately with long shots. It's not with short shots. So, and I think that's counterintuitive to some people, like, because we've all been taught, drive for show, putt for dough. But the reality is that nobody can putt. Like, so even a Scotty Scheffler doesn't make 50% of 10-foot putts.
Yeah.
And so the short course all of a sudden starts to throw out all the shots that somebody that's not very good can't do very well. And so it's a true, great equilibrator. I think the other big thing about short courses, and we're struggling a little bit because the word short course means different things to different people.
Yeah.
I think the ones we've been doing are more like the cradle, the hay, they're short holes. But I think the other big factor is time. And so the quanta of time that you have to spend on a short course is very, very different than the quanta of time you spend playing 9 regulation holes or 18 regulation holes. And I think what you're going to see is golf continue to develop in a way that allows more optionality about you can go do this for whatever amount of time that you want to go do. I was just at a place yesterday that has an 18-hole golf course, has an awesome short course that we built for them. They may do something that adds some land, but they don't not necessarily want to end up as a 27-hole facility. So we may this is very conceptual, but we may end up with an 18 holes of regulation golf, a longer version of a short course, and still the shorter version of a short course, such that now you can have unrestricted time, spend whatever amount of time you want on the driving range. You can go play the short course in an hour and 15 minutes. You can play this longer, shorter course in 2 hours and 10 minutes, or you can go play the big course in 4 hours. And so I think golf's going to move more and more into those kinds of things of just giving people more sort of optionality in terms of time. Pre-COVID, if you looked at all the sports or recreational activities that were really booming, they all were really unstructured in time, like hiking, walking, biking would be simple ones. So you can decide to do them for an hour. You can decide to do them all day. You can do them by yourself, do them with other people. Golf historically has been very regimented of like the 3 of us are going to show up at 10:10 and go march out for a prescribed amount of time. The only thing we've had that's been unstructured in time has really been driving range practice. But I'm a person that I personally get bored just hitting balls on a driving range. But so it's more experiential type practice or more the short course stuff. Like it to me starts to fit into this like more optionality around time, and as well as what you're asking about, which is like family and not being intimidating and those kinds of things. So I think it's here to stay. I think you're going to see more and more. I think it works best appended to a bigger golf course as opposed to a standalone thing. And that's partly economics. So like, you got to have a golf course superintendent. You got to have a maintenance building. So the more you can leverage those big fixed costs, that makes the extension of short course easy. As soon as the short course has to carry the cost of all of that on its own, like the economics of that get harder. So I think it works best appended to something else. And it doesn't have to be a golf course. It could be other activities or other things, but like I think it's a complicated thing to just go do a bunch of short courses standalone.
My dream in kind of like coming out of COVID was, and Hayden can attest to this because I've been yelling at him about it since that time. We live, like I said, 30 or 40 minutes south of PGA Frisco in this little suburb called Richardson. And my dream has been to have a short course like in the middle of the city that is a gathering place for all these friends and people and their kids and their grandkids and whatever. And every time I think about it, the economics are just like not like a non-starter. Like it's just, so I think what you're saying about the economics of it almost being subsidized, quote unquote, by like the big, golf makes a ton of sense. I'm curious, do you have any just underrated daily habits that you participated in that you're like, man, everybody else doesn't really talk about this, but this is something that really is life-giving to me and kind of helps me get through my day, get through my week, and gives me a lot of energy?
Well, that is a really good question. I mean, it's probably like first thing that comes to mind is going back to this sort of learning reading. So like I can get really stuck and go, I mean, in some ways, like the internet's the greatest thing to ever happen to me, and by far the worst thing that's ever happened to me, because I can go down these sort of rabbit holes of information kind of all the time. This is nothing earth shattering, but I have I don't think I've ever spoken about this to anybody, but so I have a religious side of me. So I'm a practicing Roman Catholic, and which is unusual for my part of the world, maybe, or at least growing up. And so I don't go to mass every day, but it's not unusual for me to go to daily mass. And so prayer becomes something I think is something that in times of stress in particular, I probably lean into. And I've tried to aspire to maybe do that prayer wise, like more on a daily basis. And I think that gives me the pick me up in the charge sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that gets me off the internet, which is a good thing too.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Hayden. Okay, I'll go. So when you think about, Beau, when you think about any of these activities that you participate in, whether it's building golf courses or the curling stuff or whatever, whose approval do you most enjoy getting? Because I think in all of our jobs, we're doing things and looking for approval or praise or whatever. And that can come from, at least in my work, a number of different directions, whether it's friends or people that follow or my family or whatever. I'm curious about whose approval you most enjoy receiving.
So, I mean, I think first and foremost, it would be my client. So like I'm a service provider and so client is king in my universe. And so I think that would be number one. And where that comes from a little bit is my grandfather. So he was an accountant, as was my father, but my grandfather would always tell me and my sisters sitting around the Sunday dinner table that the food before us was a result of the family's hard work for the clients, like that week, month, year, life, whatever. So I think that's very much been in my DNA, from the start of all of this. And I think Mr. Fazio, had, a similar orientation. That client was very important. And so but the client can be complicated. So sometimes it's an individual, sometimes a corporation, sometimes it's a club with lots of members. And that's probably the most complicated client of all. Like you go and do a renovation of a place and, it's almost like you've got, 300 or 400 clients. And, so I think that's probably first and foremost. I think that, it's always nice to have somebody go enjoy the fruits of your work and whether they be a member, a guest, anyone, a participant. That's always rewarding, but I think we always are kind of looking at through the lens of the client. And so like golf architecture critics and things like that doesn't mean a whole lot to me unless it means a lot to my client. And then it will.
Beau,
and
the
ultimate test would be my mother, probably. So if my mother goes to the place and if she likes it, then that makes me feel particularly good. But if she doesn't, then I realize I have messed up somewhere.
There we go. That's the real answer.
That's a barometer I think we can all relate to right there. Beau, I'm curious, just, as you look ahead, over the next, I don't know, 5, 10, 15 years, when it comes to golf course design and land planning, are there things that you still hope to do that you haven't done yet, in the golf world? Are there things you'd still like to check off that list?
Yeah, I mean, so to me right now, Hayden, this is the fun, 30 years of doing this. This is the funnest time, right, of my career. And,
awesome.
and partly it's because I think, between, what they call off course golf now, the top golfs of the world, between what happened coming out of COVID, I think there's just all this opportunity for creativity and thinking about golf in different ways. Going back to this whole short course thing, it's like, as opposed to everything sort of being standardized, like this is what this is. And so it's like, to me, it's like there's all this creativity, and we're real involved with the TGL. So like, even all that sort of simulation stuff or mixed reality stuff is really interesting. I think all these people trying to go and do golf-like experiences more indoors, like all of that, I find, very, very interesting. And so I think I'm super excited about the future and the possibilities. And so to answer your question, like, I don't know exactly where that will take me because that's what the exciting part is. It's like, it's that I don't have that. I want to go do this. Having said that, if somebody called me and wanted to do, Links golf course in Ireland, like I would get, I'm half Irish, so I would get super excited about that. I've been fortunate to work on a few, but like, those kind of special site places, you always get excited about that. I think somewhere along the way, I started sort of evaluating of what we're doing. Not that building great golf is not important. Of course it's important, but also sort of starting to look at what we're doing through the lens of how does this impact people, and you can impact people in a lot of positive ways with a game of golf that might be a golf facility that's not going to show up on anyone's top 100 list kind of thing. But I think if you believe, I said to myself along the way, if you believe all this stuff you say about the powerful impact golf can have, then you need to be able to go do this across the spectrum of whatever that golf facility has been. And so we've done a couple of renovations in places that wouldn't be high media type places that aren't full renovations because economically they couldn't afford it. But to see the output of like doing these projects and the impact on people and local communities is like very, very powerful. And the two that come to mind are Evansville Country Club in Evansville, Indiana, and then Coosa Country Club in Rome, Georgia. And I'm as proud of the work that we did at those two places of anything that we've done. And like, no one's going to it's never going to be in a golf magazine or kind of anything like that, but it's been super impactful. So Hayden, to answer your question, it would be what I would get excited about is the new, how do we be creative of what's coming and innovation? And then how can we continue to use the game of golf to go impact people's lives in a sort of positive way? And I think as long as I feel like I can probably keep doing that, I will remain very interested in golf design. So that's what how I see the future.
That's awesome. Bo, I've had a crisis of self recently in that I've always been a very goal oriented person, and I've read a bunch of things recently that are like, you shouldn't set goals. You should just have daily habits. I'm curious about how you seem like someone who doesn't set goals and just like goes where life takes you and does whatever's in front of you. How do you think about goals?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we do like master plans for golf courses, like we're big into having the club set goals, like what we're trying to do and accomplish. But I think the question's more like personally, and I think that I'm probably not the biggest goal setter. I'm more, not to sound trite, but I'm more, you realize it's really about the journey and not the destination. And so goals feel like destinations to me.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really about going and experiencing, and also sort of, living in the moment of like, I think you can get too wrapped up in your head with goals and think about goals and like at the expense of like enjoying like what's right in front of you and doing. For whatever reason, over the course of my career, I feel like people have sent their kids to me to like say like, Johnny doesn't know what he's going to do. He's graduating from college. Like, can you go talk to him? And I'll talk to them. And what I find a lot of everybody's different, but like a lot of the common threads are that people struggle because they feel like they need to know what it is they're to do and or be. And my advice is almost always the same. It's like, just go do something. Go do something. Go do anything. And like the worst thing that can happen is that you'll learn that you don't want to do that. So that feels like a successful step of a journey. And so I think I'm more in that mantra. I'm not saying that setting goals is bad, but I think it's not an expensive doing, because I think you'll learn and you'll adapt, and like, who knows what the world's going to take. I mean, it happened. Like, you could have all the goals you want, and then all of a sudden a COVID thing happens. If like the world's totally changes off of its axis, kind of thing. And it get to make it even simple back into the club space, we end up spending the amount of time we spend planning around the world pickleball is like unbelievable. Well, nobody even said that word 10 years ago, but like all of a sudden we're moving golf holes in order to make room for something, a word that we didn't know what it was 10 years ago, kind of thing. And so I think you can get too wrapped up in trying to get it all figured out as opposed to just kind of going and going and doing. But what I wouldn't do is sit around and do nothing like that. So if I had a goal, it would be like to go enjoy the journey.
That's that's great. And I picked that up from you. Okay. Last thing from us. You've worked with Tiger a decent amount. I know Blue Jack, the Hay, I believe he was involved in, probably some TGL stuff as well. What's the most surprising thing about working alongside him or in conjunction with him on some of these projects?
I mean, he's a joy to be around. To see how his brain works is really, really fascinating. He is extraordinarily analytical, extraordinarily smart as well. And so when he approaches a golf hole or when we're shaping something in the field, he's like quickly, like almost like a computer, evaluates like risk reward options, like what it all is. And that remains very interesting to me. When I first sat down with him, which is now 20 years ago. It's hard to believe. To talk about helping him in golf course design. I was sort of blown away how much he knew about golf course architecture, not through the language of that's Seth Rayner, that's Donald Ross, that's Alistair McKenzie, but more through the lens of like what it means, the architecture in terms of playing the game of golf. And then I felt stupid. Like, of course he would know that. Like he's the greatest player kind of all time. But I think it's just been a joy to be around him. I think I probably learned a lot myself of just how that elite level player, really looks at things. I've been around it my whole life, but like to truly see it through his eyes was really eye opening to me. But at the end of the day, like he is a client as well, and so I'm trying to help him accomplish his goals and objectives for what he's trying to do, with golf course design. And one of his early questions to me was, I think I know how to make golf hard. But like, I don't want golf to be hard. I mean, I want people to have fun. Like I want, not great golfers to go enjoy what it is that I do. And so I thought that was very insightful for a person just getting involved in golf course design.
Yeah.
And so it's been a great relationship for us to, we've been fortunate to be able to help him with all of his golf design to date. And it's been great. And I really much enjoy that.
I think Tiger, I've said this before, I think Tiger's a genius. Like I think he's a literal, like a Magnus Carlsen level genius, and it's applied to golf and the way that, because people always look at the physical ability, which is obviously extraordinary, and what he did back in the early 2000s and the way he transformed the game physically. But I think his greatest gift has always been mentally. So to me, it's not surprising that it would translate to the way that he thinks about golf being amazing to everybody else, because he's a genius. So yeah, that's really cool. Beau, thanks for your time. This is awesome.
Yeah. Great. Thanks, Kyle.
Super insightful and generous with your time and your answers. And best of luck with the election, and safe travels to Europe.
All right. Sounds good, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Beau.
See you, Beau.
Bye-bye.
Okay, Hayden, that was delightful. Beau's great. I knew he would be. I've listened to some of his stuff before. He had a great pod with Garrett Morrison of the Fried Egg. I think it was Designing Golf, I believe, is the podcast name, and he did it. It's about a year and a half ago, and it's really, really good. I would, if you enjoyed this, you will enjoy his conversation with Garrett. Garrett's super smart. One of my favorite people just to talk about golf with. What was your biggest takeaway from what Beau talked about today?
Beau Welling is a renaissance man.
For sure.
I mean, it is truly incredible to just see someone who, just chases their interests and their dreams, and very successfully. The curling story of just being like, I'm just gonna go show up at this event in the middle of nowhere in Minnesota, and that leading to becoming the president of the World Curling Federation. Is crazy. But I think the biggest thing for me is just his thoughtfulness. Like, I think it's awesome to have somebody like that in the golf world, right? Like, obviously he could be doing a million other things, but for him to be spending time thoughtfully in the golf world and trying to gather people together, I could have listened to him for like 2 hours just talk about that.
Yeah, I agree. The curling story, Golf Week, I think, wrote about it maybe earlier this year, because people were like, why is a golf course designer handing out medals in Milan at the curling, gold medal match or whatever? And the story is he sort of downplayed it, but he truly reached out to, and people can go read this on Golf Week, but he reached out to the USA Curling. I don't know what the name of the entity is, but they were having their national championships in this small town in Minnesota where most of the national curlers are from, which is another bizarre thing. And he just went up there, and he was supposed to stay for 2 or 3 days, and he stayed for like a week and a half. And they threw him a birthday party. It was insane. Like, the whole thing was the incredibly normal sport. Like I said to him, I had a lot of takeaways. I think two that that come to mind off the top were one, he talked about golf as a, like, and I think about golf as an equalizer in terms of handicap, like there being a handicap, and also the Masters thing. I don't necessarily think about it being an equalizer in terms of the way you design courses and it being a gathering place for all these people. But the way he was describing that, I was like, man, golf is so often amongst my friends, our friends, viewed as uppity and stuffy and like all these different things, which it can be. It's totally fair. But it is this place where you might get paired with like somebody who's a billionaire, and probably not a billionaire because we don't play at places like that, but somebody who's very wealthy, or somebody who's not very wealthy, somebody who has a blue collar job, somebody who doesn't have a blue, like it really is you could argue that other sports are like that a little bit, maybe like pickup basketball or a softball game or something like that. But golf is consistently like that. And I think that's just freaking awesome. Like the way he talks about golf course design makes me love golf more, which is a very cool thing. And then the second thing that really stood out to me was, I don't know how old Beau is. I think he's in his mid 50s, maybe late 50s. And he said he's having the most fun he's ever had in his career. And I saw you nod your head as he was talking about that. And I'm thinking like, man, that is aspirational. Like that's exciting to me, who I have all these thoughts and ideas about what I want to do. And to know that, somebody who's 15 or 20 years ahead of me is still having a ton of fun, like that's really exciting to me, because I keep waiting for the day where I'm like, I'm just sick of all this, and I haven't reached it yet. And neither is he, which is, that's very encouraging to me.
Totally. I think the love he has for golf, but all other things, but I think the love he has for what we talked about, the gathering people together and seeing that in action, like only fuels that excitement and that joy that he has, even more. Like I thought the story he was talking about at PGA Frisco of like seeing the guys or whoever the groups meet at the bar, like one day, and then the next day they're back, all together. It was like everything that he had in his mind playing out like in reality. Like that is like such a cool thing to hear. I think too, like the idea of like he kind of talked about it, like the evolution that he's seen golf go through in his career. Like in 30 years, like it is crazy to think about how much has changed from, early to mid 90s to today. I wanted to ask him, like, Beau, when you started this career, did you ever think you'd be designing virtual golf holes for a simulated league for PGA Tour players?
But it's so ironic that he's the one doing that, because I'm not deep in the architecture game, but it doesn't seem like there's anybody else that's as adamant about gathering places for humans. And he's also doing TGL, which is hilarious.
Which TGL is gathering a lot of humans together, right?
True, well, that's fair.
Maybe not a lot, but some humans together in a space. But yeah, I do. I think it's super cool. And I think for him, I think for this idea of gathering, going back to what he was talking about early on in his career, it's like, hey, I want to build this like 18-hole course. And then to what you were talking about of like golf is this equalizer, but I think traditional golf, 18 holes, we know a lot of people who would say like, I can't play golf. Like I'm not good enough to go play golf with you, right? In this traditional lane of 18 holes. But this transition to shorter courses, virtual driving ranges, Top Golf, whatever it is, like I think does bridge that gap to where like it is much more approachable and it is much more of a gathering place. I don't know. I just think it's cool when it seems like that has been a goal of his career and that it has come to fruition in his career. And even outside of golf, like I know that, Greenville, South Carolina, he's done a lot of work there. I know along the river that runs through that city, like he did a lot of that land planning and urban planning. And it's just like, I have some friends that live there, actually played in Greenville for the minor league team, but they just love that city just because it is such a walkable, community-oriented city. So it's just cool to see somebody who does, not only for the golf world, but for the community he lives in, making those things come to life.
Yeah. I think the words you used earlier, and this is what we aspire to be at Normal Sport, I think, is like he's so thoughtful. And I think in a world and even a sport, although golf probably tends to be more thoughtful than maybe some other places, but we've seen plenty of like not thoughtfulness, even recently amongst other golf brands and different things like that. And I think in a world that's so adamant about how can I make money as quickly as possible, or how can I get a return on this, or how can I get more eyeballs or audio, whatever. It's like, man, I literally heard him talk about, we think about how to make courses more walkable because we don't want, when you're in a cart, you pick up your phone more often. And you're like, it's not complicated, but it's incredibly thoughtful. And I love that about him. And it inspires me to consider how I can be more thoughtful in my own work within the golf world as well. I knew what he was going to say about the goals thing. I've been going down the path of, I read Patrick O'Shaughnessy, who runs the Invest Like the Best podcast, runs a magazine called Colossus. He's very thoughtful, good, great interviewer. And he had this thing 5 or 6 years ago about how he just doesn't do goals. He just does like, hey, here's my daily habits. I try to hit them. And if I hit these habits, then I'm becoming the person that I want to become. And I was like, oh, that's rocking my world right now, because I'm, as you can imagine, like, 55 goals every year and, sharing them with friends and keep me account, all this stuff. And it's like, you're always in a state of failure. Like, and Beau alluded to this, like, you're never like, that's an end state. And so for 99% of the time you're failing, quote unquote, even if you're not like, you haven't reached your goal. So by definition of your goal, you're failing. And so I've been, again, crisis of self big time. And to hear him talk about like, yeah, I just read about, French priests and, I'm going to Slovakia and I do the ballet, and you're like, this is the life I want to live. Like, this is incredible. So that was inspirational.
Totally. And I mean, as soon as you asked that question, I was like, I don't know if Kyle's going to like this answer. I thought that was, I would say I'm pretty different from you on that spectrum, but I thought what he said about like having parents send their college kids to him to be like, they don't know what they want to do. Like, but his response of just being like, just go do something, like just do. Right. Yeah. Because at worst case scenario, you find something that you don't like. Right. Like which is
learning.
Thing.
Yeah.
Which is learning, which is exactly what it is. I think his call to action there was also like very cool. Right. As he said it, I think, but like as cliche as like, it's about the journey, not the destination. I think like we all as humans like get there as we get older and mature more and more and realize those things of, yeah. Cause like you said, like I feel that way about goals. When I set goals, it's like, it's just failure until it's not. And if I never get there, then it just is failure. And then
100%
that can
failure.
even lead to being like frozen in that, right? Yeah. Like I'm never going to reach that goal. So it's like, now what? And so I really liked his sentiment of like, just go do something. Right. He was totally great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. If you haven't been to PGA Frisco and you live even remotely close, it's really fun. Like, you don't even have to play either of the big courses to have a great time.
You don't even have to play the short course to have a good time. Like, we've gone up there before, done lunch, brought our putters. I mean, the putting green is enormous.
Yeah.
And
it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's so cool. If you're in the area or if you have family, like, just get out there. It's fantastic. I'm sure Omni will appreciate it. They're not even sponsoring this podcast. So it was free. So, I mean, kudos to Beau for the short course is, I think I've said this on this podcast before, but I've been up there on like a double date with another couple, and the short course is perfect for something like that. Like, they've got like a little margarita truck and music and lights, and it's like live basically just on a short course. and doesn't cost $5 billion. Anything else, Aiden? Anything else you wanted to mention from our conversation with Beau? Or I did think of, okay, so you and I met yesterday. This is inside baseball. And again, free. I thought of a pod that we need to do. It is things that we like and we know we shouldn't podcast. And so you can root it in golf, but I've got many things. Like I had a conversation I had a meetup with a normal sport reader last night who was in town. Like, hey, can we get a beer? And it was great. It was super fun. But he was asking me, we were talking about coffee. And I was like, yeah, I know I shouldn't like Starbucks, but I kind of do. So that was what kicked it off. Like, I know it's objectively like not that good, but I still like it. And that was what kicked off the idea for me of like, I know I shouldn't like Tory, but like I kind of like that event.
Yeah, I'm into that.
So I think that would be a fun,
like December. Like maybe I shouldn't like December, but I love it.
No, December you probably should like. It's probably the other way around. I
that
probably
might be the other way around.
Should like it and I don't.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we can come up with maybe Wyndham. Like I probably shouldn't like him, but I feel like I'm kind of drifting toward liking him.
It sounds like you've talked yourself into liking him at this point. I mean, you've been repeating this sentiment since June, off and on. So I think you might be a fanboy at this point.
It might be the contrarian in me. Just everybody's going one way, and I'm like, it's gone too far. It's gone too far.
Yeah.
I wrote that down in our notes. We need to jump into that later on. So
I like that.
Okay. Thanks to Beau for the time. Thanks to Seed Golf for sponsoring the pod and for just sponsoring Normal Sport. They've been there since the beginning. Check them out, seedgolf.co. And thanks to Hayden for your time. Let's do it again next week.
See you later, Kippy.
See ya.